Dr. Akila is with us. Let's talk a little bit about the problems that we are facing. Already we can see from the Indian side, and it's very clear, the issues about the marketing and the packaging. If there is a market, the problem is solved. I agree with you completely. Okay. What are the most important obstacles that we have in the crafts industry in Egypt, and that you guys try to address with the strategy and with the strategy for promoting our crafts exports, please?
Definitely the market and expanding the whole market that we're addressing, whether the exports or the local market, were focal points and starting points for the strategy. Definitely the market, we have to agree that it's the driver for everything. So we don't need to underline this more than that was done. So there were many action plans addressing the expansion and promotion of the for the market of crafts, whether locally or exports. But what I feel is a pain that needs to be addressed is the human capital, the craftsmen, the skilled craftspeople who are disappearing. And the young generations are not entering the sector by any means. It's been like this, and it's been dwindling for the last, I would say, 15 years. And so the strategy has addressed the artisan and the development of skilled artisans. It has also addressed the existence of export SMEs and local SMEs that are working in crafts, because the sector, as it is definitely commonly known and will always remain, is quite informal. But their informality makes them isolated from many business support services. Maybe it also has to come from the regulatory or the government side to be more flexible and to allow, like was said before, to tackle this sector differently than they tackle any other industry sector, and to be more flexible in offering these services regardless of formality or not. So the strategy has tackled the SMEs with many action plans to improve their capabilities and create a layer of exporting SMEs, which doesn't actually exist, in order to access the export market. And that was a very important point in the strategy. We can't ask the craftsmen to do this. As for the skilled workers, there were many action plans from the vocational training and technical schools in Egypt to apprenticeship programs with the old craftspeople, master craftsmen, who are also disappearing, and we need to just catch them and try to do the know-how transfer and the skills transfer from them. And one more important area in the strategy are the supply chains. The lack of linkages between the supply markets of raw materials, tools, equipment, and actually design as an input to the crafts, the linkages are very weak, almost inexistent. So also there was a focus that was placed on the supply chains. And one also important aspect of the supply chain is its sustainability. So the inputs need to be sustainable from every point of view of the word sustainable. So also action plans were directed to this, to improve the linkages and to make the supply chain more sustainable. All this was also coupled with the angle of the clusters. As our distinguished guest in the beginning said, the district, the existence of districts that are known for specific crafts as well here in Egypt. We do have villages and districts that are known for crafts, and some of them are deteriorating, disappearing. The quality is definitely dwindling. So the cluster development has been given an important angle from the strategy, with many action plans, with a target to develop 10 clusters, 10 clusters that were specified in the strategy over the span of 7 years. Also, the government and the enabling environment of the sector was given attention. The regulatory framework, with all the things that we mentioned before. The social image of the craftsperson, because over the past 50 years, the manual work has been devalorized, or people are trying to have in their national ID the word employee or manager or engineer, and none wants to write craftsman, craftswoman. So this was also addressed in media campaigns and cultural events, and certain action plans that are addressing this, as well as the importance of addressing this sector with many regulations that give the craftspeople sustainability, financial sustainability, social insurance, medical insurance, all these benefits that they lack since they are in the informal sector. So there is nobody looks at their old age, and they are really suffering. So as you see, the strategy has looked at many aspects of the challenges in the sector.
Okay, thank you so much, and we'll come back, and we would like to see on the Indian side how did they solve some of the problems that we are facing. But before we do, we have with us as well an entrepreneur in Egypt, Josline, who has a Jozee boutique. I wonder where the name is coming from. The name is coming from her name, and it's a beautiful name. And she has a unique experience hello, hi, how are you?
Hi, how are you?
Unique experience in linking geographical areas through the product that she creates, if I understood correctly. So tell us a little bit what it is that you are producing, please.
Actually, in Jozee Boutique, we're specialized in women garments. It's in fashion. It's a slow fashion brand, obviously. We're specialized in designing and producing handmade clothing with a special focus on the Egyptian heritage and culture, and specifically the handmade element in each and every piece that we do. We produce our items in Cairo, in small workshops in Cairo, with a very high quality. Then we ship them to Siwa and St. Catherine and the south of Egypt and Qina and Sohag to get embroidered, and then we take them back to Cairo to be displayed in our shop and or on our online store. These are the main channels for us for selling these items. Or we actually get the products, the fabrics from the looms, loom woven on the traditional looms in south of Egypt, in Naqada also, or in Nagada or Akhim. It's either cotton or linen, or mixed cotton or mixed linen. We try to use the natural fabrics to be as valuable as the embroideries that we do with the artisans, and get them to the workshops in Cairo to get to make our designs and stuff like that. We have different designs, and we started since 2014.
Okay, thank you. Very, very interesting. And what you are doing is also link the geographical areas together.
Yes. Yes.
Which is nice. Let me go back to Dr. Preet again. Okay. And I want to ask you, already Ms. Jaya talked about how the government is a bit tight on the handicrafters, okay, and that the support is limited. And I wonder if you guys in India have the same level of informality that you have in the handicraft business. Most of our handicraft producers are actually informal and very small. Do you have the same problem in India?
Yes, yes. And of course, Jay, I would know much more about this. So one of the things that we've seen in the ecosystem is that the producers, the artisans, the weavers, painters, all of these would be informal, small, in a lot of cases, hand to mouth, and not very well to do. So we've also seen an entire range of middlemen, so to say, that have come about. And now I know for a lot of people, the presence of a middleman means that there is inefficiency and this and that. In my limited experience, whenever we've tried to remove aggregators from the supply chain, it hasn't gone down well. So the aggregators right now are supporting the market with one, of course, aggregation. Second, they can undertake the due diligence required. They can undertake the constant, if you have to sell on e-commerce, then you need to see that sales panel every day and ensure that things are like that, right? One of the problems that we faced when we tried to put artisans onto e-commerce platform was a return. And it wasn't as much as the money, but the artisans felt their pride was hurt when somebody returned their product, right? And because they had never anticipated this sort of a thing, their price point had not accounted for returns, right? So of course, some of the aggregators might not be passing through the benefits, but we've got some startups now, and that is probably the ray of light that we see, where the startups are ensuring that there is a fair amount of the realization that is flowing back to the artisans, that they are ensuring that the artisan's family is at least getting basic education and healthcare, that they get their artisan ID cards, other cards, and basics of insurance, right? Not all of them are like that, but that has probably been the one way in which the market itself came up to solve this, because we also have this problem in a lot of places.
Now, a question for you: the middleman, and I understand what you mean by the middleman and the aggregator who takes from all those small players. So this is a formal company by government regulations. That does it have any special treatment because it's a company that's working with the informal sector? Are there problems there? Because this might be actually helpful for us.
So this is not a special government entity. This is not even a special entity under any regulation. It is a regular company that, of course, is motivated with probably the right intentions to ensure that some of it flows back, and who understand that there is a business opportunity. Like I said, adapting a design to a contemporary use. So we've got wonderful coat pad handloom. We've got wonderful prints, right? You would see those prints and you would be like, these are beautiful. As a professional office going person, you and I might not actually say, I want to carry this bag to my office every day, right? So how do you incorporate that art form and make it more, let's say, more acceptable to an office setting? That could be international, that could be professional, that could be an investment banking one, and ensure that those are sold, right? So this is a regular company motivated by their market forces who see an opportunity.
Does it have incentives? Does the government give it incentives because it's actually taking all those products forward and or no? Are there any tax advantages, anything like that?
Right. So most of these are completely market driven. Most of the companies that I'm talking about are completely market driven. As one district, one product, we support everybody in the entire supply chain, irrespective of their roles specifically, because we didn't want to also distort the market. So the amount of support available to an artisan is similar to the amount of support available to an aggregator, similar to an exporter. But of course, these aggregators, because of their particular position in that supply chain, are able to create more value for everybody else also.
Okay, great. Mr. Basil, do we have a similar model about having the middleman who can collect from the small ones? And can the suggestion, the model used that Miss Jaya explained about the marketplace, this permanent platform for impermanent people, which is actually a very interesting statement. Is this doable? Okay, for
Yeah,
us.
of course, it's doable. We have almost the same culture and the same way we can do that. It all depends on the training. We just need to give them sort of a training and sort of coaching for these people to excel on that area. But
Yeah.
same culture, exactly the same. We have this.
Okay, and hopefully we can allocate areas for such markets to exist. It seems like a very neat idea. Back to you, Mrs. Jaya.
Yeah.
You said that every 2 weeks you change the people who are standing there in order to have new people coming. It's your chance. They are not going to be there, so you're going to buy it. You are linking it with food, which is smart, of course, because people, adore food everywhere in the world, and your food is very good. So they see the crafts first, and then they go for the food. But do you have, enough crowds, given how it's a huge area? You have over 700 districts with different products. Do you get enough demand, enough market in these individual districts, given that they are also far away from each other? What the logic seems to say that you would want people from outside the district to be visiting this district to buy the products, because you don't need handicrafts every day. So how do you see this?
Oh, that's a lot of things all combined in one, what you've asked. But the thing is that when the government, the Ministry of Textiles, for instance, does not work necessarily district-wise, the ODOP way. They have regional offices all over the country, and usually the state capitals. Craftspeople register themselves there. Then they ask to come to be allotted to Delhi Haat, for instance, any marketplace. There's such a demand that they do a lottery, and from the lottery, whoever's name gets selected, they are sent for those 2 weeks. And they get the stalls which have a lesser rent, and then they come away. So we don't go district-wise, we go normally state-wise and craft-wise. How many different crafts from each state can be called, and how many different states can be represented? Sometimes the states which are far off, difficult to reach, difficult to travel, they may come less. Some of them may collect their goods together, and one person will sell on behalf of 4 or 5 other groups. NGOs also who work with craftspeople in different areas, who give them design, financial, and other support. NGOs also bring their craftspeople. And from all those craftspeople who have what we call artisan identity cards, those people are called. From among them, they're called. And anyone, a new artisan, can apply for an identity card. So it's a very complicated procedure. I think if the government realized how complicated it was, they would not have accepted my proposal. And they would ask me, how much, can you figure how your sales would improve over 5 years? I said, I can't. Each person will bring a different amount of stock. Somehow they were very much more open-minded, in the sense that we weren't so corporatized in our thinking. And sometimes today I find inflexibility in facilitation of craftspeople, because they are expected to do things which is easy for the corporate sector to do, but not for informal, not very educated people. But one thing I want to say, which is different from what we've been discussing earlier, is that I agree 100% that a lot of young people don't want to do it because there's so many other attractions like electronics, mobile phone, other kinds of jobs where you are not categorized as a craftsperson. This exists 100% in India because our craftspeople are categorized according to caste. And caste has a hierarchy, which we're trying to now get rid of. But hundreds of years of this system, it takes time to remove. But I have found one thing which I propose, I say very strongly, is if you give the craftsperson, no matter what the social status, respect because of their skill, and with respect, revenue. Revenue without respect is no good, and respect without revenue, no point.
No, you're a poet, my friend. You're a poet. All your statements seem to rhyme. Respect without revenue, and revenue without respect. I agree completely. Let me.
When they have that, then their young people, the next generation, are proud to join their fathers. They leave their factory work and come back home, and they're very proud to be part of that generation of skill transfer.
Okay, I think this is actually very interesting. We happen to have with us as well Dr. Hesham Gazzar, who was also a sustainable development consultant in Egypt and previously the chair of the Egypt's handicrafts export council. Dr. Hesham, you're still with us. You are here.
Yes, hi, Dr. Abla.
Hi, how are
Yes,
you?
I'm here. I'm good, thank you.
Dr. Akila already talked about the strategy, and it seems that the skilled disappearing is on, and informality for us and in India at the same time. But there is something that Mrs. Jaya mentioned that actually stopped me a little bit. She said that the direct marketing is the one that works best, a lot more than online marketing. And I'm wondering, how do you see this on the Egyptian side?
Yes, I completely agree with what everyone was saying during this this conference call. So let me tell you that we are working with products that people like to touch, like to see, like to feel. So during the COVID, it was a situation that was enforced on everyone. We had to be online in order to keep surviving. But once we passed the situation, everyone wanted to go back to the old way of doing things, like going back to trade fairs, doing bazaars, talking to the artisans in fairs, touching the products, trying to understand the story behind the products. So all these things are very important, and we have seen many B2B trade fairs, international trade fairs, that at the time of COVID, they tried to do online B2B fairs, and it failed in a very bad way. So, for example, like New York now, they tried to do this online fair, and it didn't work. Many others also are suffering with having their own B2B platforms for instead of people going to real trade fairs. So I really recommend that in order for our companies to be able to succeed and open new markets, we have to go to the trade fairs, international trade fairs. Last September, with the support of Ms. Mida, we were able to take 7 companies to autumn fair in Birmingham in the UK, and they really did an amazing work. It was partly subsidized by the government, and then last February, I mean this month, they decided to go again to the spring fair, the same show in Birmingham again, but without the subsidy. So they decided, five companies out of the 7 decided to pay for themselves, which is a huge amount of money, just because they saw the opportunity there. And last year was the first time for all of them to exhibit in an international fair. And once they saw the opportunity, they decided to just do it themselves without the subsidy. And that's a huge proof to what we're saying, that we need these companies. to act on behalf of the artisans, like Dr. Preet was saying.
Mm.
Artisans will not be able to do everything by themselves. And this is the mistake that we have been doing in Egypt for the last 20, 30 years. Almost all the development projects in Egypt were trying to make the artisan be the one who produces the products, the one who is marketing the products, the one who is doing the branding, the packaging, the quality control, everything, which didn't work. So we have to have in each part of the chain someone who is specialized in doing this job. So we have to have like specialized designers who are working with the artisans. We have to have specialized marketeers who are working with the artisans and with the designers. And our support as government to link all of these people together in an ecosystem that is healthy for everyone, and also make sure that it's ethical trading and it's fair trade, because every time I mention private sector, everyone is telling me, oh, but how are you sure, how do you make sure that they are not, making use of the artisans and doing all these bad things to them? And the answer is by just making sure that everything is under the umbrella of fair trade and ethical trading and all these very important principles to make sure that the whole ecosystem is working.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Hesham. And you've just answered the question that was actually raised to Dr. Preet, exactly this question. How can you make sure that they are not abusing the poor, vulnerable producers in the value chain? And it has to be under the umbrella of the government.